All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to be part of it. I thank Petra for making this happen for me and for you and for all of us. I think that at the end of this time that we have together, everybody will feel more light in their hearts, and that's the goal. So that's what today is about: finding your light where you are. Sorry, when you're faced with any darkness, whether it be your own darkness or another's. And I'm sure among us, we've all had the experience, especially considering the nature of our group, where you've tried to find light in the middle of darkness. There's so much of it going through the things that we go through. So, the topic today is called Hope, Love, and Loss, and we're going to create a pathway to healing. And this is a hands on workshop. So, you've all received, I believe, a link to the workbook, which looks like this. If you haven't downloaded it or you haven't printed it, that's okay. As long as you have a piece of paper or two and a pen or something to write with, you can work through your own journal. You can work with this online. However you want to do it, it's okay. It will work. And then you can re-listen to this again from the recording if you want to go back and get a little bit deeper into any of the areas. So that's what this is what the download looks like. Okay, the intentions of our program today are how to reconnect to hope and love when you're faced with grief, loss, and uncertainty. We're going to look at how to use thoughts and feelings as key messengers and powerful sources of guidance and positive momentum. And finally, you guys are actually going to create your own pathway to healing, hope, love, and more. And when you leave today, you will actually have like your own little map, your own little plan of how to find your center in any given moment. So it's kind of neat. You're going to leave with something that you can decide to implement if it works for you. So, a little bit about me. I'm a best-selling author, a self-discovery expert, and a coach. I'm also a mom, a wife, and a lover of all sorts of adventures. I've experienced pain, loss, emotional distress, deep disappointments, and long periods of self-loathing. At one point in the midst of my darkness, I made the choice to find my light. And since that moment, I've discovered how to create my own pathway, and I'm here to help you create yours. I can now find my way back to a peaceful place and where I feel love and joy in almost any given moment. And it's such a change of life for me, and I'm thrilled to be able to show people how they can also do it themselves. So, I journaled a miracle, and the pathways and lessons that we're going to discuss today are derived from the book, I Will Always Love You. And the words did come from me from a very powerful journaling session, and I'm going to share it with you today to set us up for the work that we're going to do together. But before I do that, I want to introduce you to Stephanie Parsons. Stephanie is someone who, as she'll explain in her video, she's not able to be here in person today, but we met through Hospice Simcoe. And I will let her, through her video, tell you about how we connected. And it's because of her work that actually we're all here together today.
Thank you. Before I begin my story, I just want to state outright that I will be reading my truth to you today because this is very emotional for me. So I felt it best to get through with a few notes. So please excuse me referring to those today. But I am so deeply honored to be speaking with you. I come to you today in honor of my beautiful, vibrant, tenacious son, Braden Ryan Parsons. Here's a picture of us taken on August 1st, 2018. It's my wedding day and my 20th anniversary. Corey and I are high school sweethearts. The little girl in the picture is my daughter, Vanessa Murray. She brings me so much joy. And she was 6 when we got married. She'll be 10 this summer. She's my reason for living. Here's a picture of Braden taken the day before he turned 9. It was on August 12th, 2018. We celebrated his birthday with his Nana in North Bay at a fair. He was perfect then. The day after his birthday was the first time that he showed any signs or symptoms of illness. Tragically, he passed away from a cancerous brain tumor only 9 weeks later in October of 2018. I was introduced to Melissa's book by Hospice Simcoe very shortly after Braden passed. At that time, my grief was very fresh and all-consuming. The book and its connection to Melissa's teachings illuminated my path, brought me out of darkness, and really healed my suffering. The first time that I read the story, it sounded as if Braden were speaking to me. I heard his voice again and I wept. You see, it's in honor of my son's memory that I'm introducing Melissa and her book and her teachings to you. And as you're watching the video reading of Melissa's book, I think it's tremendously important that you know that this story came through Melissa and during an intense journaling session, as Melissa explains. You see, it helped me immensely to know that other people believe in the synchronicities, and it confirmed all of my beliefs and thoughts about the signs that I had been giving since my son's passing. There were so many signs, but I had some doubt before reading Melissa's book and hearing its messages. It confirmed for me that other people believe in the synchronicities, and it proved the power of universal love. You see, love never dies, and it always continues. Thank you.
So now, as Stephanie mentioned, I'm going to show the book to all of you so that you have an idea of where we're going to base some of the work that we're going to do, and so that we're all coming from the same place. So it's a book reading. It's about 3.5 minutes long. And one of the things that happened, as I mentioned, it was like that intense journaling session. I didn't know that this was coming. This is nothing I was trying to do. It came really out of the blue. And then I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And the next thing that happened was I got the words that this book is for everyone, big or small. It's for the child who lives within us all. These words were sent to comfort you. Take time to read them. You'll know what to do. And so for each person, these words mean something different, and they come from someone different. And that's what makes it pretty magical. So I'm going to play this for you now, and hopefully we smoothly transition after this next video. Okay.
You should listen.
I will always love you. If you're reading this now and I'm far away, please pay attention. I've got something to say. It was my time to go, and I can't explain why, but there was a reason. It was my turn to fly. Now I can see you from my new place of rest. You must understand you are still truly blessed. Realize that by letting me go, you'll give us both freedom more than you know. Believe in angels and spirits or not, but consider this, I hear all of your thoughts. Your life lies ahead and it's all very great. I'm privileged now to see all of your fate. I have one last wish, and it's part of a theme. It's you choosing to choose to follow your dream. My gifts to you include memories and love, and now you'll have more with my guidance above. I'll send you hints so you'll know I'm around. Pay closer attention to each sight and each sound. You might see butterflies or other clues that I leave. It could be a rainbow, you'll just have to believe. Focus on love and trust in good things. Listen to your intuition and see what life brings. Open your mind and change as you need. Embrace new directions, see where they lead. Welcome your challenges as they appear. Accept them as lessons, there's nothing to fear. They come with messages and purposes too. It's all part of your learning, they're gifts for you. See them with gratitude and understand their role. Then get back to focusing the thoughts you control. Trust your heart as you follow your dreams. It has been directed by the highest of teams. You hold the power and the answers inside. Turn into your heart. Let it be your guide. You create your world with each thought that you think. Your beliefs build your future as fast as you blink. The mind is a garden that grows flowers and weeds. One who chooses good thoughts always succeeds. Trust me, I know advice is easy to give, but divine wisdom shows this is how you should live. Be the one who shines the light that was mine. Honor me now by letting yours shine. Trust that I'm free and home at last. Cherish each moment, life goes by so fast. And remember, I will always love you. Thank you for listening. It's an honor to be.
Beautiful. Oh, can you copy it for me?
I know. It's on this. Okay. So of the many messages and lessons shared, and I will always love you, these are the 3 that are going to shape our workshop today. We create our world with each thought that we think. Our beliefs build our future as fast as we blink. Also, welcome your challenges as they appear. Accept them as lessons. There's nothing to fear. And finally, you hold the power and the answers inside. Turn into your heart. Let it be your guide. And so, yes, there are many messages that come to us through that story and through the words from life beyond ours. But these are the 3 that I really think can help us get back to our past and back to our center. And before beginning this hands-on work that we're going to do together, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about nutritional value of thoughts, feelings, and emotions for our soul. Before I get into this, I just want to pause now and see if anybody has need anything from me before we move on, because I know that was really emotional. Okay. All right. So, we think about the food that we eat, and sometimes we measure our calories, we measure our steps that we take, or we measure exercise and things like that. And we're really aware, like when we go grocery shopping, where we take our buggy and what we're putting in our cart. But when it comes to our mind, if we knew that our thoughts actually had nutritional value and it had really impact on our soul and the way we lived, I often ask people, like, do you think that you would think differently or be more aware of what you're carrying around in your heart, in your soul, and your mind on a daily basis? So this chart is based on the work of Dr. David Hawkins, which is the scale of consciousness. But what I've done is I've put them into 2 sides here. And courage is actually the thought, the feeling, the emotion, whatever you use to describe the word courage. That kind of separates emotionally draining feelings, thoughts, and emotions from the ones that are emotionally uplifting. And in any given moment, we can find ourselves anywhere in this group of feelings. But the question I have for you is, do you see yourself spending more time in one area than another on any given day. And of course, we have, like, when we're going through grief, we're going through grief. So, like, that's the obvious thing. But what the purpose of this is to remind us that when we are experiencing something like that and we're deciding to stay there, it's a conscious choice of how we can slowly start to move ourselves into just having moments, and then maybe minutes, and then hours of feeling better, or working towards feeling uplifting feelings before we come back in. So, like, when we're feeling blame or jealousy or doubt or sadness or overwhelm, we feel it in our heart, and we feel that tenseness, and it's really hard for us to attract better things into our lives and better things into our experiences. But when we do start to feel appreciation for the things that we can appreciate, and optimism in moments, and enthusiasm and love and joy and acceptance, then you feel things start to lighten, and more of that starts to come into our lives more. So I just leave this with you to ask you, where are you mostly? What is keeping you there? And what would you like to experience instead? Because I know that we know what that is, but sometimes we forget to remember so many things because we're so caught up in whatever we've been going through, or whatever the people who are with the most are going through, that sometimes we forget to remember what we really want for ourselves and what we came here to experience. And so having lack of clarity about what we actually want keeps us from getting that, from here to there. So that's the purpose of this, and I want you just to keep it in the back of your mind as we go through the exercises. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a path. Now, here's what the path looks like from the bird's eye view. So in the center is where your intentions are. It's where you want to, what you want to experience, what you want to have, do, be, feel. And often they're chosen from soul qualities. And soul qualities can be found within this scale of emotion here. Some of the things that you want to experience, you will want to be writing in the middle of your path. And then on the outside, I've used the words detours and derailers, but they could be called all kinds of things. And basically, this is anything that pulls you out of feeling peace in your heart, feeling supported, feeling guided, feeling loved. Anything that takes you out of that momentarily or longer is something that sits on the outside of your path. So there's blocks, there's traumas, frustrations, irritations. And the idea is that you keep realigning back to your center. But how do you know when you're not in the center? Well, my favorite line in the world is, and I want to be remembered by this, is that when you feel yucky, you're really quite lucky. No, I'm not saying that you want to feel yucky, but what I'm saying is when you're actually aware that you're not feeling good, that means that your emotional guidance system is firing and working, and it's telling you that you're not where you're meant to be. So think about these cars that have the lane departure alerts, and as soon as you veer off from one side to the other, it says beep beep, and you know to come back gently and slowly. It's like simple subtle shifts back to the center. Well, that's what life is like too. So the moment you find yourself feeling yucky or feeling in that emotionally constricting part of life, you just have to remind yourself that it's okay to be there, but be there on purpose and leave there on purpose, or find your way back to your center on purpose. So that's the path. So now we're going to do some work, and we're going to look at creating some joy. So in this exercise, I'm going to take you through, I'm going to explain it all to you. And like I said, you can do this on a piece of paper and write out 5 columns. If you're working on your workbook, you can do that as well as you've printed it, whatever you want to do. But this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to give you time to work on this. So what do you love? What are you good at? If you think about your accomplishments, which ones make you feel best? And you might need to go back a little bit in your memory and do some digging about the accomplishments you've made and had in your life. What comes to mind when you think about what you want to have, do, be, or experience most in life? And think blue sky. Don't judge or limit your dreams. And finally, when this is done, if there are things that come up that are on the opposite side that you want to release, quit, or eliminate, make a little list of those two in another area. So column 1, what do you love to do? What makes you come alive? Column 2, what are you good at? Column 3, what are your favorite accomplishments? Column 4, what would you like to have, do, be, or experience today and moving forward? And finally, what do you want to release or experience less of? And if anything else comes to mind, jot that down too. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes now to quietly sit and work through this on your own, okay? And then I'll come back to you and tell you when time's up. And then I'd love to have a conversation with anybody who's willing to share anything that came up for them. Okay, so you can start now. And if you have questions now, you can unmute and ask me. Okay. So that was 4 minutes. You might have finished it already, or you might want another 4 minutes or longer. So I encourage you to go back to this after we're finished if you have more things to add. Anybody have any ahas or anything that they would like to share after working through this? You just need to unmute yourself and let me know. Often I find people are surprised at what they remember about their accomplishments or what they've forgotten about their accomplishments, and just going through that process helps you feel lighter and happier. Just the process of thinking about things that you're good at and thinking about things you love, or thinking about things that you look forward to in the have do be experience column. All of these things help shift you from wherever you are on that thought nutrition scale to somewhere higher, because it's somewhere where you hope to go, hope to be, or aspire to experience. So it's a really good process. I hope that you all feel a little bit lighter from doing that, and also that you know yourselves a little bit more than you did before we started, because we forget to remember who we are. We find ourselves busy working and taking care of other people and just getting through life, that as we grow and change, we sometimes lose touch with our own centers. So it's a good process for that as well. When you're a quiet group, that's okay. But if anybody has anything to share, again, unmute and just pop in. So we're going to move on. Oh,
Oh, I
Petra?
was just gonna say, I love that term. I'm gonna use that from now on. Thought nutrition. I think that's an excellent way to phrase it in a healthy manner, that we can certainly have negative thoughts that bring us down. But I thought this exercise was fun.
Well, thank you. And I'm really glad that you brought that up and you said that, because it is important, because it is just like we care what we put in our mouths. We should care what we carry in our minds, especially the things that are heavy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for
Excuse
sharing.
me,
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes, Anne.
The what needs to be released. For me, that was a real difficult thing, because I thought if releasing my grief and my, I would lose part of, what was remaining with my husband right after he passed away. And it was very difficult for me to release just say to myself, hey, it's okay. But, tips for me, or I think would be important for other people, because it's not so easy just to say, hey, or not, you know what I'm trying to say, right? So how do you release it?
So I'm so glad that you brought that up and that you commented and that you're asking that question as well, because sometimes it's easier to think about what you want to hold on to rather than what you want to release.
Yeah.
So if you think that you have like a piece of pie or a basket, or your heart, for example, and it has a capacity of 100%. So if you want to hold on to things that you remember about your loved one that make you feel good, then sometimes there's only so much room. So maybe you release the things that aren't making you feel good about that same topic. Does that make sense? So the way you can release things is by replacing them with things that you want. So you're not actually releasing them. They just sort of fall away as you focus on the things that make you feel better about that same situation. So in an example of a husband, you remember like great events, great characteristics, great qualities, special times. And the more you focus on those things, you're at that capacity of your heart or your memory, that some of the things that aren't as great just sort of fall away on their own, and you don't have to physically release them. They just find their way to leave, because you're focusing on the same thing, but just a more, I want to say happier, but that's not the word. One that feels better, a feel
Yeah,
better thought about the same person.
yeah. But
Does
it
that
takes
help?
time. And I think that's what, for me, it took so long for me to focus, to get back to the good things and the happy things, and, laugh about my husband. And I just kept feeling, here I am wallowing, but I wasn't really wallowing. I was trying to move forward, but there's no time limit to it.
No, there isn't. But if we take away the emotional part of just this one example, and you think about having a knee, you had knee surgery, okay? So this is going to make it just completely not emotional. Everybody's going to heal that knee at a different rate.
Yeah.
But the people who are maybe in physiotherapy versus the people who are at home not doing exercises, they might heal a little bit faster, and not for any other reason other than they're focusing on the healing. And so what I would say is you're absolutely right. There's no time limit and there's nothing that you can do wrong, but you can do things that feel better. And all of
Yeah.
those things will just make you feel better. And as you feel better, it's that law of attraction. It's that, when you're having a good day, sometimes it gets better, and you're having a bad day, sometimes it gets worse.
Yeah.
That's not really a coincidence. It's like
Where were you? Where were you in 2007?
We're meeting now because this is when we're meant to be meeting for sure. But yeah, I don't know if that helps, but it just,
No, it does. It makes
yeah,
sense because
I love that you've asked the question.
I just couldn't seem to get out of it. And then I kind of did what you said, but I needed you in 2007.
Well, thank you. I need you today. So there you go. You're helping me be able to do what I want to do with what you're doing now. So I'm grateful. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Petra. All right, I'm going to move on. And again, everyone's welcome to chat. So the next slide here is we're going to look at the derailers. So these are the things that fall outside of your path. So here we're going to look at 5 things. Like I'm saying 5, probably you're only going to get through 2 or 3, maybe even 1 when we do this exercise. But what can happen in your day that has the potential to affect your emotions negatively? And you can include here irritations, frustrations, self-doubt, anger, workplace issues, relationship challenges, fears, worries, anxieties, sadness. And so we've got a column for each example, and you can spend time thinking about your answers in order to get deeper insights. So like write it down, and then you might come back to it at a later date, or even after you've written it and you've gone to a different column, you come back and you can go a little bit deeper. So write down maybe 2 or 3 problems first. And then of the 2 or 3, or as many as you have, pick the first one that you would like to most deal with. And then ask yourself, can you change it? Can you control it? What would it feel like, or what would it look like if it was resolved or not there anymore? And finally, if someone else came to you with this same problem, annoyance, irritation, or worry, what would you tell somebody else about this? And is it different than what you're telling yourself? And so if you can I'm going to give you 5 minutes for this one because it's a little bit more detailed. Get through as many as you can. So again, list your problems and irritations and worries on the one thing, and then go through and pick one, work all the way across. And then when you're finished, pick another one and work all the way across. And if you're stuck with what you would tell someone else, then ask yourself what someone who you really respect might tell you. We're trying to look in for a different perspective here. And there you go. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to work through this. Okay. I'll let you wrap up your last thought and bring you back. So now in this exercise, I find that a lot of people, even though you probably knew it already, you're surprised by the can you change it, can you control it, and the realization of things that you're wanting to fix or carrying that actually you have no control over at all. And it's just that awareness of carrying that extra weight or that extra stress or pain. Anybody come to an aha or want to share an example?
That's exactly what my additional thought was, that a lot of the negative space that I hold during the day are things that I can't change and I can't control. And so that my freedom and peace that I am always looking for really comes back to me focusing on myself and what is in me to control.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. It's true. And we all get caught in that, don't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And uh, again, grief is a common bond for all of us here today in this call, but an example that we could use to bring this to light that's outside of what we're talking about, if you think about looking at some third world country where you see hungry children, and you look at that and it just breaks your heart, right? And it takes you out of your center. You feel sick about it. And then you have to realize no amount of you feeling bad in this moment will make them less hungry. It won't make them feel better. In fact, all you're doing now is affecting yourself and anybody who comes into your circle in a negative, low vibrational way. And there's nothing you can do. So what you can do in this case, and kind of like what you're saying, is that try to just see it for what it is, hold space for it to become better for them, and however you envision that, and then come back to here and now, where you can control, where you can affect, and you can impact. Yeah, because it takes away our strength and our power, not just for ourselves, but for the people we love and support here. So thank you. Anybody else? The other thing that I find, we can write down the first four columns, what it is, and have the realization of how it would look like it was resolved. But when you actually think about what you would tell someone else in the same situation, or what your closest advisor and most trusted advisor would tell you, sometimes you have a whole different answer that's before your eyes, and you always had access to that answer. It's like if you have like the perfect outfit to wear, and you've got three closets at home, and you only look in the one closet every day, and you miss out on all the clothes in the other two closets because you just didn't know to open those doors. That's what this exercise does. It has you open all the doors and see which one's going to fit best for today or for this situation. And then you have access to so much more that you've always had access to. You just don't always dig it out. So this exercise is just making you realize how much more power, how much stronger you really are. But again, we forget to remember that about ourselves, especially when we're not feeling good.
I'd like to make a comment is that I live in a home and I'm finding it difficult to take care of. And it's been a really big decision for me to look at maybe getting into an apartment. And I'm realizing now that it is a good move for me. And then working towards a goal that's going to free me of some of the things that irritate me right now. So you just have to take a journey, and that first step is really hard to take sometimes. So I'm working towards a goal, and I find if I'm working towards some of these goals, it helps me on my day. I feel like I'm accomplishing something by reaching a goal that I'm working towards.
Yes, that's so well put, and it's so true. It's so true.
Mhm.
It's like if you get in your car and you start driving and you don't have a destination, you just will end up somewhere. Like you wake up in the morning and you're not working toward a goal like you are, Lana, like towards what you're doing, then you're going to get to your destination because you've already laid it out for yourself. You have a much better
Mhm.
chance of achieving it.
Yeah, so I'm realizing there's steps I have to take to reach that goal. So I'm now decluttering my house. And so you have steps that you take along the way, which helps you reach that eventual goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, and good for you, because you're on the realization, and making that plan is the way to it. So that's awesome.
And I think it was harder for me too, because I was married for 50 years and my husband was the one that made those decisions. And now for me to have to be the one to make the decisions, it's a little bit, it's been a little bit out of my comfort zone.
I imagine. Well, I wish you all the best as you continue to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
I had a quick comment, I guess. I'm going to throw my camera on. Hi. So I really love this exercise. I think it's really great. Especially the kind of, can you change it? Can you control it? Kind of like what advice you give yourself, especially the advice you give yourself. I know I'm bad for that, of just not, not taking my own personal advice for things. So I guess when I was kind of sitting and doing this exercise for myself, my biggest question that I have for you, for kind of what your advice would be like, when someone's in that kind of real first stages of like that real acute grief, when it's just first kind of happened and everything feels like a problem, everything feels like an annoyance, everything feels like an irritation and a worry, that it's like hard to even kind of differentiate between each of them to be able to do an exercise like this. Do you have advice of how somebody can kind of break that down a little bit when they're feeling so overwhelmed, to at least just pick one thing to kind of work on for this exercise?
That's such a great question, and it's such a tough state to be in, isn't it? It's like challenging you on every cylinder's firing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The vision that comes to my mind is, when people say like you're swimming upstream, or you're going against the flow, like,
Yeah.
against the grain.
Yep.
And sometimes like the water's just rushing past you. So maybe don't try to go with the flow or against the flow, just sit in it.
Yeah.
Just sit in it, like literally, like, and cry or scream or write. And I think that the more that you sit with all of it coming around you and going, like, passing through you and not resisting it, the things that will come up for you automatically. And
Yeah.
you'll know. And the most important thing is, if you can't change it or control it, then you just have to sort of let it pass through you and by
Yeah.
you. But it's going to go at its own pace too, right?
No, I like that. Okay. So kind of
Yeah.
just allow everything to just be, and keep all of these thoughts and questions just kind of in the back of your mind while you're allowing all of these things to just be, right? I guess.
Yeah. And do
Yeah.
you journal at all?
I have a lot. And honestly, for me, like, my grief, I don't like to say it's been resolved, because it hasn't ever really been resolved, right? But it has been quite a long time since I've been in that heavy acute kind of stage with my grief. But I know what it's like to not even be able to make a tangible thought of how I can, what is a negative, what are my negative thoughts right now, what are my positive thoughts right now, how can I differentiate? Like, I've been in that state where I know how overwhelming that can be, that I didn't have something like this to help guide me through it. And something like this could be helpful, especially with how you're saying of like, when you're feeling like that, just to let it just be. And those big things that keep popping up over and over again, those are the big worries, those are the big annoyances to kind of start focusing and worrying on. So anyways, thank you. I appreciate your answer.
I love the question. Thank you for bringing it up. And the other thing that comes to mind is just what we were just saying with Anne earlier. It's like, so you want to release things, but it's like, how can you possibly release, like, you've got everything going on. So then maybe just look for what you want to hold on to. Like, just move to things that make you feel better, little things that make you feel better, whether it's like looking at a picture, whether it's listening to a certain song and having a good cry and then remembering something good. The more things that make you feel even a little bit better, the more the rest of the stuff will keep flowing by you, and you might not even notice it leaving.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right,
Melissa.
thank you for asking and for
I
your comment.
appreciate your brain.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. Okay, so the next part is your turn, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples, but this is really actually where it's fun. This is where you can go from feeling yucky to feeling a little bit better, and then better and better and better. So this is what the path looks like. You kind of saw it earlier. So if you're working on your paper, you just need to do 2 squiggly lines. Your path is in the middle, and everything on the outside is like off-road driving, where the potholes are and the thick brush. So I'm going to give you an example of one of my paths. Now, I have a whole bunch of paths. I have a path for when I'm with certain family members that I have a harder time with. I have a path there. I have a path for when my kids are all home and my house is full. So you'll find that your one path will be for different situations. So here's one. So I want to experience joy. I want to have meaningful time with my family. It's important to me to feel connected to a purpose. Freedom is the most important quality for me because I believe that it's the gateway to everything else that we ever want to have, do, or be and experience in our life. So I wrote down also prosperity, compassion. I definitely want to be kinder to myself. I love my alone time. When I say meditating, I just like to be quiet. And I want to lead by example. So sometimes I have to make sure that I'm showing my best self, meaning that when I'm not feeling great, to get quiet so that I can represent who I want to show up as in this world. So those are the things that are important to me: faith and harmony. So now my detours: self-sabotage. That's a huge detour for me. Negative self-talk, anger, resentment, being too judgmental. I'm judgmental on myself, and then I'm judgmental on myself when I'm judgmental on others. And that becomes a slippery slope. Fear of failure is huge, which is, of course, really related to being too hard on myself. That illusion of that there's anything close to being perfect, and trying to attain it will always pull me out of my center. And also, sometimes I've found myself very hopeless, very scared, unmotivated, and then feeling emotionally drained or stretched also is another thing that I catch myself in the middle of that, and then reminding myself that I have to figure out a way to make that be more positive and switch myself from the restrictive side of my thinking in the nutritional scale to that more uplifting, soul enriching type of thinking. So this is my path. Your path will look entirely how you want it to look, based on where you are, where you want to go, what you want to do. So I'll leave you with this. I'm going to go back and just show you. Let me just see here. Yeah, here. I'll leave this path here so that you can. Wait, where's the one that shows? I'll just leave it this one: detours, path, and derailers, and you can work on yours. And I'm going to give you 4 minutes for this, and you can just take the work that you've done and just plot it on here for yourselves. Any questions before we start? Okay, your 4 minutes is on. Okay. Was that enough time? Thumbs up. Was that enough time, or do you need a little bit more? It's enough. Okay. Yeah, I think the second exercise takes a little bit longer than the others. So, how did you make out? Anybody want to share anything in this part about your path? I'll go back to showing my path so we just have something to. Was it easy? You'll you'll find if anybody jump in if you have something to say, please unmute. You'll find, like I said, you'll have different paths for different parts of your life. Go ahead.
I'm just having a little trouble sorting out detours from derailers. Can you just clarify the difference?
I'm glad you asked that. You know, this question comes up a lot, so I think I'm going to have to fix the slide. They're actually the same. What they are is just anything that pulls you out of your center. You know, takes you off your tracks, off your path. And they can be things that are like really simple too. Like it can be just your irritations and list those ones that you haven't quite resolved. Yeah. And literally, like if you think about when you're riding your bike, it's a bicycle, because that's a good one example. Like if all of a sudden you hit a bump or go in a hole and your wheel turns off to the right and you overcorrect or you overshift, then you're going to go too far to the left and then you might fall off. Like these are just subtle things, or they can be huge things, and you have to just gently find your way back. Like it's not like you just turn it off and come back. And then the other thing I want to say about this too, like a detour might be, I mean, if we really wanted to say it could be something just small, but a derailer would be like grief, like fresh grief, where it's like, I'm going to spend most of my time derailed for the next however long, but I'm going to be conscious of the fact that I want to add some positive thought nutrition to that while I get better. So it's not like you can just find yourself back to your center right away, but recognize that you're feeling yucky. So you're lucky because it's working, and you know where you want to be. So you've got that plan, that path that's calling you. You know? Mm-hmm. That's the other beautiful thing about this too, is like, you know, when you're feeling like you have a day where it's just nothing's going right, or you're so stressed or overwhelmed and you just don't even know where to go with it. At least here you've written down 10, maybe 10 or 15 things that feel good. So immediately you have a go-to when you recognize your heart's feeling tight and tense. You have like something that's pulling you back to center. It doesn't mean it's going to get you right there, but it's pulling you back to something better. Mm-hmm. I did this with the hospice Simcoe group, and one of the people there shared it with her son. And he was in first year university. She didn't think much about it, just the path. She didn't do the rest of it with him. And he came home at the first reading week and he's like, Mom, you know that path you showed me? He said, it really helped. He's like, I find myself all of a sudden I'm getting stressed or over anxious about something. And then I just realized, yeah, that's not where I want to be. It's not getting me anywhere where I want to be. And he really used it to help bring himself back out of that, you know, that feeling that you have when everybody wants a piece of you and there's only so much to give. So you can use it in so many ways. Okay, I'm going to summarize this unless we have any other thoughts or comments or questions. Okay, so here we go. So these are my takeaways from what we talked about today. Thoughts provide us with our momentum and our experiences. So, you know, before you take a step in any direction, you think about moving your leg, even if it's subconscious, and you move in that direction. So wherever your thoughts are in that moment, that's where your life will lead. So if you're not having great thoughts, you're not going to have great experiences until your thoughts kind of turn around. So just remember that. And there's no right or wrong. It's just choosing where you want to be most and where you want to be in the end. Healthy thought nutrition nourishes our heart and soul. Having clarity about what we want and what we don't want gives us the ability to redirect our thoughts and experiences. So the best way to describe that is when we forget to remember what it is that makes us come alive. We forget to remember what we're good at, what we love, what we want to have, do, or experience. So taking time to be clear, and also being clear about the things that pull us off our center, those things that irritate us. And when you create a path of intentions and you identify derailers, it will remind you to continually realign. Keep coming back to anything that feels better. As soon as you're aware that you're not feeling good, look for something that makes you feel better. And if you're not ready to feel better, then do it on purpose. Do it on purpose. Sit where you are and be aware that you're letting it just happen around you. And then when you're done with that, think about something that makes you feel better. And finally, the more centered we are, the more we can connect with hope, love, and joy. And that's like a vibration or a frequency. And it's kind of like if you imagine your life or yourself and you're a radio station, and let's think about the FM scale. If you're tuned in to 92.9 and your thought and your where your thoughts are, let's call 92.9 courage. And everything below 92.9 is the restricting feelings, and everything above 92.9 is the expansive feeling. Wherever you're dialed into, that's where you're transmitting and that's what you're receiving. So in order to receive something better, you need to transmit something better. And that's the best way to think about when you're like, why does this keep happening to me? Or why isn't it changing? Why isn't anything getting better? Because you're transmitting something and so you're receiving it. So in order to get something better back, you had to put something better out, meaning your thoughts. And I just wanted to leave you with just to tell you that my books are available on Amazon and in select bookstores. And there's one for when pets are lost and one for, of course, when we lose the humans who are most important to us in our lives. So I wanted to share that with you. And then I also have a little freebie gift if anybody likes this kind of work. This is 11 days and 11 ways to create better days. So it's just, you sign up for it, and for 11 days, you're going to get an email with something to think about. And then you can journal around it or think about it. And it just will help you sort of realign every day because you've already got your path done. So this will just make your path a little bit stronger. So you can find that on my website if you're interested. I just wanted to let you do a little bit more work if you want to. And you can always reach out to me if you have a question or a thought. You can send me an email. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to care enough about yourselves to be here today. And from my light to your light, I hope that yours is a little bit brighter as a result of our time together. Mine, I for sure feel better now that I've spent this time with you guys. I tell you this like from the bottom of my heart. And Petra, I'm so grateful to you for making this happen. And Stephanie, of course.
That's great. Thank you so much, Melissa. I know you've been very busy and traveling and taking the time out to do this presentation for us. Just to let our volunteers know, we do have copies of Melissa's book. She graciously donated. We have them here at the center. If anyone would like to have a look at those when you're coming on shift here at the center, we have them. And also just to put it out there for any of our attendees today that are not volunteers of Hospice Quinte, that we do offer bereavement support services as well. So we are looking to fill our support group up for June and also starting another one up in September.
That's wonderful. And Petra, thanks. You reminded me too, in the workbook, in that first page, there's a link where you can see the reading of the book for free forever on YouTube. So yeah, you can look at it if it brings you comfort or you want to share it with someone. It's there on YouTube and you have the link. And there's also a meditation that has most of the story in it as well. And I talk about that in that first page. So those are two more resources as well for your groups as well too.
Yes, great. Thank you so much. Meditation, definitely beautiful practice to help bring us back in ground and center and create some positive thoughts and imagery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, sending my love to you all.